Hey there, everybody. It's Pastor Jason. Thanks for joining me again in our guide to how to start a Bible study. Things to think about and contemplate as you're starting one. I want to encourage you again, this isn't rocket science. This is something that, the church has been doing for quite some time. You're able to do it, I guarantee you. It just takes a little bit of thought first and just to kind of work your way through some of the common problems or things that might trip you up in the beginning. Last time we talked about activity versus study, we talked about the length of time, and we also talked about curriculum. This week we're talking about the humanity that's going to be in the room, okay? Talking about people who are going to go show up to your group. We're going to talk about who is the host, and we'll talk about the leader of the group. Now, first off, don't forget, everything that we talk about needs to be bathed in prayer and with the intention of how you're going to help others allow God to impact their lives. Okay, I want to say it, I'm going to repeat it because it's that important. Bathe all of these points in prayer and with the intention of how you're going to help others allow God to impact their lives, to go from that stiff arm and to let God come closer to them, okay? So first off, people in groups. All groups have them. If you don't have people in your group, you haven't got a group. Be open to people joining your group. Now there does come a physical limit of the space you're in, but be inviting people. Be willing to say that, hey, be encouraged at the group that you're in and want that for other people as well. Everybody likes to be part of something. Remember that when you were getting chosen for kickball when you were a kid, you always wanted, or a baseball team or the soccer team, whatever. You wanted to be picked. Everybody likes to be picked. Call and personally invite people to your study. Make it a personable and personal invitation. Now, everybody's not going to be your cup of tea, right? Everybody who shows up to your Bible study is not going to be your cup of tea, right? It's that difference between people who like Mellow Yellow and people who like Mountain Dew. There is a distinct difference, y'all. Keep that in mind, okay? Just because they're not your cup of tea doesn't mean you should be kicking them out the door. As a matter of fact, let me take this moment right now to say that it should be the very rare occasion that you offer the invite for them to find somewhere else to be. Okay, there are certain dynamics that, where someone's personal safety or health is at risk. Be wise to that and hold it in reserve. You're not looking to kick people out very often. Once in a blue moon. Hosts, be the active inviter to your group. Want people to come to your home and enjoy the study that you're enjoying. Be encouraging. Again, personally and personably invite people to your study. Have an inviting space for people to meet in. Not that everything needs to be perfect. Heaven knows when there's a Bible study at the Ritz House, typically speaking, there may very well be dishes in the sink. But, people shouldn't have to work around piles of laundry or step on Legos to get to the study space. If you're meeting outdoors, make sure that trip from the parking space to the backyard area is easily accessible for people. Speaking of that, think about your parking. How many people can you legitimately park at your place? That's one thing to consider. Another thing to consider are the pets. Now, don't get me wrong, fur people. That's what our pets are. They are fur people. But if Rover the dog or Mr. McFlufferton the cat cannot stay off of people, or they can't stop jumping on people when they enter the room, this may be a time frame where they find someplace else to exist, whether that's in a bedroom or outside or whatever it is that you do at your home. Pets are great, but remember, not everybody likes being jumped up on, okay? Snacks. Have snacks. People love snacks. Food around a study is kind of second nature to Christianity. But recognize you are not on the hook to always provide the snacks. As a matter of fact, that's one way your guests will like to contribute. So be willing to ask, hey, does anyone want to bring snacks next time? Is anyone willing to bring cookies or chips and dip or something to drink or things like that? I guarantee you people will love to sign up and be a part that way. And it's a good way for them to, that's a skill to learn, frankly. And it's a good experience for them. And consider the possibility of making the space where you meet sort of like a round robin, maybe, where you meet at some person's house one week and some person's house the next week and some person's house the next week. Yeah, you got to kind of figure out how you're going to handle new people, but that's a great way for people to gain some exposure about having a Bible study in their home. Leaders. All groups really have them, so let's go over a couple things. First, people are going to look to you for prayer, like to start the prayer off, to end the prayer off, those sorts of things. Let me make a quick comment about prayer in small groups. It's one of those things that my wife and I, having been all over the country, seen all sorts of small groups, there is kind of a slump that small groups will get into. They'll either pray about job and money, health, or school, depending upon the age of the people that are in that group, or somebody who's not in the room. Those four things, right? It's my aunts, brothers, cousins, uncles going through a divorce. Now, you absolutely should be praying about those things. Absolutely. But if those are the only four things that your group comes up with, let me kind of infer that your small group might be in a prayer slump. One way to kind of break out of that is to, as a leader, put back on them a simple question of, how can I be praying about your character as you deal with that boss you don't like? How can I be praying for the fruits of the Spirit for you as you wrestle with your aunts, brothers, cousins, uncle that's getting a divorce? As you interact with them, how can I be praying for you about that? Like, again, bringing it back to character qualities, fruits of the Spirit, getting people to think about those sorts of things is one way to kind of break out of that slump. Thinking about how to pray for your nations, your missionaries. Go to your missionary committee at your church if they've got a missions committee. Get a list of all the names and where they serve and actively pray for those folks. Find out how you could be praying for those folks. Is a good way to kind of spruce up their prayer life in your small group. Okay? So that was the first thing, leaders. Direct people in prayer. Next, if the group dynamic calls for it, you're going to be facilitating the lesson, right? You're going to be presenting the curriculum, facilitating discussion, drawing out the quiet people, helping those people who have to have an answer for every single question to be patient and, guide them in not answering every question. Now that takes experience and skill, and we'll talk about that next week. Keep in mind, it's not a second sermon, okay? It's not all about you talking. It's not like a YouTube video where it's just you. Interaction is what you're looking for. Participation from everybody in the group is key. With all of these things, again, you are bathing it all in prayer, and you're trying to figure out how to help others allow God to impact their lives. Prayer is the most powerful thing we can do in all these decision-making kind of things, and we know that the Lord wants to be nearer to all of them. How can we be a help in that effort? Next video, we're going to talk about prep, participation, and follow-up. Those three key elements to a small group is what elevates the small group. It's what brings it to the next level of going from just like it's a group I do, to a really good group. It's that prep, participation, and follow-up. I hope you join me. Be blessed and be a blessing to your community. I'll see you sometime soon.